Mountain here in the Fast Lane. If you're watching VTRN Sports and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook Live and YouTube, you'll see our first guest to start off the Fast Lane, Liberty Flames Athletic Director Ian McCaw, generous enough to give us time on, I would imagine for you, is this a typical game day where you're all over the place and into a bunch of different things?
Yeah, it's really a strange feeling, Ed, because it feels like a Saturday, but it's a Tuesday. And so we had a regular work day today, and then obviously flip the switch and get ready for a football game in 2 hours. So we're excited. Looks like we'll have a really good crowd, beautiful night, and really important to get a win for the Flames.
For your schedule, take us through midweek on the mountain. At what point do you and your staff transition from, I don't know if there's ever normal, but relatively speaking, a normal weekday to game preparation and enhancing the game day experience?
Yeah, we really turn it over. Starting last night, we had to get all the parking lots ready and start making all the preparations for this indoor practice facility for the pregame event. So it's about 24 hours out from game time that we get started on it, and our staff does a great job. And Liberty football just provides such a great game day experience. That's what our fans really enjoy, and again, we should have a really good crowd tonight to take it all in.
Ian McCaw, Liberty Flames Athletic Director, stopping by with us. We are at midweek on the mountain in the Liberty University indoor practice facility. We are around the 45-yard line where the golf simulators are. If you're able to come over, hang out, say hi, shake hands with us, we'll have John Manson 5:30 today, Bryson Gordon 5:45. I feel like we've hardly even spoken of them. We've had so much Major League Baseball playoff coverage on the VTR and Sports app the last couple of days, and now we're here for another sporting event for football. Chaos has been the theme since we last really had an edition of the Fast Lane with the coaching carousel in full swing. How much do you monitor that 24/7? What are things that you look for that go, oh, this could create a real ripple effect?
Yeah, certainly, part of my job is to keep an eye on what's going on in the coaching carousel, and really unusual to be sitting here on October 14th, and there are 8 FBS jobs open right now, a couple of the top jobs in the country, and it's unusual in the last couple of years how everything's shifted so far forward, and you're seeing coaches get fired after 3 or 4 weeks, which never happened traditionally. So the cycle's definitely moved up, and I think there's also with the advent of NIL and the pressure that comes with all the resources that are being pumped into football programs, the donors and those that contribute have very high expectations, and when performance does not meet expectations, that often leads to coaching changes.
Does that same sentiment exist with Liberty in terms of the quick results, quick, pardon the politically incorrect phrase, but the quick trigger to get rid of a coach, or is it more tampered down at Liberty University?
Yeah, I think we've got a little more balanced approach here. Obviously, we value winning highly, but we also value academics. We value the student-athlete experience, and we value pouring into our student-athletes spiritually. So there's a lot more that goes into it, and again, we're in a great spot right now. I think our team's starting to build a little momentum. It was a big win against UTEP last week. And if we can back that up with another win tonight, I think we put ourselves in good position. We'll have a 17-day break after this game, so a lot of time to kind of work some things out and then get ready for a big November stretch.
Ian McCaw, Liberty Flames Athletic Director, with us in the Fast Lane. You mentioned a win tonight, what it would do. Would that soothe over a lot of people that have had an anxiety sense that has come from that 1-4 start?
Yeah, you can't go back and replay those 4 games. We would love to, but we are where we are right now, and I think what we're looking for is progress and improvement down the stretch. And again, hopefully we take another step in that direction tonight, and then can make a really good run in November. There's a lot still out there for us, and I think we have as good a team as there is in the league if we're on point, and hopefully we're going to show that tonight.
What level of context is there as well that, I mean, it's disappointing. Certainly you lose to 2 schools in the Commonwealth of Virginia and JMU and ODU as part of that 1-4 start. Another one of those was a Conference USA game. As disappointing as that is, how much has the sentiment not just been with what we've heard from Coach Chadwell, but around the entire athletic department that not only is there still a lot of football to be played, but this team could still very well make a dent in the Conference USA race?
Oh, absolutely. And there's so many games left. It's wide open in terms of the conference race. And again, I think those games in mid and late November are going to be really meaningful for us. So we're excited about getting things back on track and finishing strong.
Ian McCaw, Liberty Flames Athletic Director, is stopping by with us in the fast lane. Ian, there are a number of ways to go as well with that. I mean, fans get very up in arms when things do not go well. I'm sure that's news to you, right? You never heard them go off the deep end or have their sentiments. We're not in the, fire everybody. The whole thing needs to be blown up and change particular camp. But, I mean, we've seen it even before where, Liberty basketball a couple of years ago was disappointing relative to standards. I mean, first of all, how fortunate are you that, this is a program that, if it's a 500-ish season, it's considered a disappointment. Heck, even last year, an 8-3 season, much like men's basketball 2 years ago, where it's fifth in Conference USA is not bad, but the standard has been raised so much at Liberty that that's where fans expect to be, contending for conference championships on the regular.
Well, that's our expectation too, Ed. I mean, we resource our programs to compete for conference championships, and you're not going to win one every year. No one does, but we certainly want to put our teams in position to, on a regular basis, compete for conference titles, and we think we can do that in Conference USA. Last year, we won 13 across the athletic department, and hopefully we can win a similar number this year and continue to have a lot of success. But we like our fans having high expectations, but with that, there will be disappointments along the way. But again, I feel like really good about our coaching staff, really good about our administrative staff, our student athletes, and our programs. Got great facilities, great resources, and is really built for success.
When you mention that, I mean, there's the idea again of, you need to can everybody, which I think it's a lot easier said than done, not to mention the tentacles that have come out in college athletics. But the other reality is the evolution. And we saw in men's basketball how they evolved after that disappointing season to winning the regular season in the Conference USA tournament last year based on their evolutions. What's your approach as an athletic director? Is it pushing for that in the middle of the season? Is it just constantly evaluating and being prepared for potential necessary changes at the end of the season? How do you balance the need to evolve with the fact that, I mean, again, we've got half a football season still to go?
Yeah, the things are evolving so quickly in college athletics. There's just so much change that you need to be able to factor that in as well. And, this is the first year that we've obviously had a compensation situation where student athletes are able to earn NIL or participate in revenue sharing. And that's a major change in adjusting to that. I think some of our coaches have adjusted more quickly than others to that. In some sports, it's easier than it is in other sports. And so, we're constantly evaluating how we're doing. We've got an NIL office under Todd Patulski, and they run a lot of analytics and are constantly evaluating what's working, what's not working, and how can we continue to get better. So we're really in a mode of continuous improvement with the goal of being excellent in everything we do.
Ian McCall, Liberty Flames Athletic Director, here in the fast lane at midweek on the mountain. We're at the indoor practice facility, 45-yard line. Come by and see us. And, of course, VTRN Sports and Fast Lane Ed Lane, Facebook Live, YouTube, however you listen to podcasts. If you've missed anything so far with Ian McCall, you referenced rev share. Where are the Liberty Flames in terms of rev share participation relative to Group of 5 schools?
Yeah, so what we really wanted to benchmark our program is to be competitive with the top group of 6 now programs. And I think we've done that. We're at the top of Conference USA and competitive with other programs. I wouldn't say we're at the top. I think Memphis is probably maybe the leader in that regard. I think they're well north of $10 or $12 million in terms of what they're revenue sharing. But we're kind of in that upper, certainly top 10 group. And that's where we benchmarked ourselves at this point. We'll continue to evaluate that as we move forward.
How do you balance that amongst all the sports in terms of rev share participation, where that goes, who's participating, how you divide all that?
Yeah, so we call it internal NIL, and that's the way we do it. So every student athlete at Liberty has an internal NIL agreement. Each sport has an allocation of funds that they can use, and those coaches make decisions about how they allocate it within their program. But all 500 student athletes have received some NIL compensation, and then again, each program there's an allocation on a per sport basis, and we feel like we've put our programs in position to be competitive with their counterparts.
When you're evaluating that, you hate to just put a dollar figure on athletes, but there is a level of, you have to make sure you properly asset allocate and allocate the funds to particular players. We've seen the model, even with men's basketball, with, I'm going to butcher his name, and I shouldn't even do this because I went to school with him at VES like 15, 20 years ago, but Stelio Suzuka is taking over the GM role there. Is that GM model going to be coming to all sports? Is it more just for the revenue generating sports? How do you see that evolving at Liberty?
Yeah, it depends a little bit on the level. At the P4 level, a lot are having a departmental employee oversee it all. We have, again, an NIL operation under Todd Patulski to just centralize everything, but each sport has designated somebody who will be their point person for NIL. So it could be a general manager, it could be a director of operations, it could be an assistant coach, it could be a head coach. And so each sport has somebody who's going to be really focused on NIL within their program.
How much of your job is evaluating which coaches would maybe take that heads-on role and which ones maybe need somebody that's more involved in the financial component of it because the coach's strong suit may be in other areas?
Yeah, so we really let the coaches make that determination for year one, which we just entered really July. And again, as you mentioned, we're going through an evaluation process as the seasons wear on, and we'll find out what works and what hasn't worked and what adjustments are necessary. And we're seeing that with some of our coaches. Things are evolving, and they're approaching some things a little bit differently, maybe today than they would have 6 months ago, and it may be different 6 months from now. So, and it's a learning curve for everybody. And again, I think we're doing well with it, but there's always room for innovation and doing things better.
It's a whole moving target, it seems like, in terms of rev share, how that's evolved. Liberty Athletic Director Ian McCall is with us here in the fast lane, and we're talking bigger picture. We spoke earlier about tonight's matchup against New Mexico State midweek on the mountain. We're here, indoor practice facility. They've already in the Flames Walk. There are a lot of other activities going on. College Sports Commission, we're also in the beginning era of that. Seen some stuff that's popped up. Again, a full disclosure, I've seen the article in Sports Business Journal, but have not fully read it. What's your evaluation of how that particular angle to rev share to NIL enforcement, how is that going in the early stages?
Yeah, so Brian Seeley was hired back in July to oversee the College Sports Commission and NIL Go and the cap system. And so that's really his responsibility. He at this point has a staff of 4, and that they have a very large job to do. And just honestly, I think everyone would agree, including Brian, that it's been clunky. It hasn't gone smoothly, and nor could you really expect essentially a startup operation to be moving at a smooth way at this point. So there's room for progress there, and I think they're learning and they're figuring some things out also. And the other thing that I think a lot of people don't know about the House settlement is that while there are a number of things that were settled, there's still some ongoing negotiations between the plaintiffs and the defendants, with the magistrate overseeing that. And so there's changed literally all the time in terms of how things are being handled. So change is the word, and being adaptive is what we need to do in this environment. And that's what I've really stressed with our coaches and our staff.
How is the College Sports Commission in terms of receiving feedback? Your coaches, is there a line of communications? Coaches relay that to you, you relay it to the College Sports Commission. How is that going so that this thing can get smoothed out?
Yeah, we're getting updates constantly from the NCAA, from the College Sports Commission, from our compliance office, and we're trying to feed information to the coaches. So we're trying to be as current as we can, but again, it's a moving target, Ed, and every day is a new day.
It is, and part of this unique year is not just that this is midweek on the mountain. It's the 3rd year of this now with Liberty and Conference USA, and it's become a regular thing. Where is midweek on the mountain, not just for home games, but the fact that Conference USA takes October and everybody plays at least a couple of these midweek games? Where is that? Are there tweaks you'd like to see? Is this as good of a spot as it could possibly be? How would you evaluate that?
Yeah, it was really important to our television partners, and so it was very lucrative for the conference to be able to add midweek games, just like the MAC has done in the month of November. So I think we found a niche. I think it works. Yeah, certainly some fine-tuning, I think, is in order. This is a year where we actually only have 1 home midweek game. Last year we had 2. The previous year we had 2. So honestly, I'm not going to complain about that. I think our fans enjoy having Saturday football. That's our preference. But having 1 midweek game is a novelty and allows us to appeal to a little bit different audience than we might get on a Saturday. And so we use it to our benefit. And again, I think it's worked out well.
Among the creative ways to work around that as well, I mean, you could have 1 at home, maybe you have 2 of them on the road as well. There are other ways to get that added exposure. One thing that's become a novelty Do you see the week 0 concept coming into play for Liberty? Is this just the direction college athletics may go to try to move the player acquisition, one transfer portal window up? How do you see Liberty and college sports fitting into that potential evolution to this?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's certainly a lot of talk about week 0 and should we move the entire schedule up a week. I would certainly be in favor of that. I think that would address a few issues, including the transfer portal, as you mentioned. We'll see if that carries the day. It's in the southern states, a little bit warm that time of year, so some of them might not be in favor of it. But I do think sitting in the Liberty chair, that would be beneficial if we could move it up a week. And of course, we start school, so it would work for us. But yeah, I think there's going to be continued emphasis on generating revenue, creative solutions, and week 0 could be one. I think, again, we're seeing more midweek games from different conferences, and it's just to TV partners. If we play on Tuesday night, I think there's 3 games tonight. If we play on Saturday, there's 120 games, and it's just you just get washed out.
Speaking of creative revenue, we're here at Midweek on the Mountain, Liberty University Indoor Practice Facility. Game tonight at 7 o'clock, New Mexico State at Liberty. There is please forgive me, Ian, for butchering the title. Is it a CEO leadership convention? Is that what this is that's across the way, which seems, from my perspective, like it would be a great way to potentially introduce some NIL opportunities. They still exist in college sports to your student athletes, but also bringing in some revenue to Liberty Flames.
It is. We're having the CEO Summit being hosted by Liberty University starting tomorrow and Thursday, and we've got CEOs from all around the country, all around the world, who are coming together. When you bring great leaders together, there's a lot of synergy and great business activity, great business minds. So we're honored to host that, and we have a large group here tonight enjoying some hospitality right now, and then they'll be upstairs in the suite watching the game tonight.
How much of your job is not just connecting with them? We see you on the field speaking with different people that are business leaders and people that are supporters of Liberty Flames athletics, but constantly meeting and even just ideating yourself about revenue generating opportunities.
Yeah, revenue generation is huge, and obviously we spend a lot of time on that, and a big part of it's development work, and we've got a great development team. Mike Hagan, the Flames Club staff do a great job. Van Wagner is our multimedia rights partner, and they help us on the corporate sponsorship side, and everything from licensing royalties to non-traditional revenues. We're always looking for ways to enhance our budget and reinvest those dollars into our teams, and that helps us be more successful.
So we'll wrap it up on that revenue generating concept. We spoke on this with you a few months ago about the Metallica concert in Blacksburg. Luke Combs is coming to Charlottesville. We asked as well, and you mentioned that Liberty's always looking for ways to generate revenue, whether it would be here, whether it be using, I wish I had the Bel Air sound effect to play, but I'm not in the studio, so I don't. But using Liberty Arena, we know there's convocation with the Vine Center, but how much are you and your staff exploring ways to multi-purpose all these facilities, knowing that there's a good chunk of the year where they're not in use for games?
That's a great point, Ed. And, we have a university events group, and that's exactly what they do. And they're looking for ways to utilize Liberty Arena and the Vine Center and Williams Stadium to maximize opportunities for the university. And obviously we have everything from convocation to concerts to various events. And so that's a big part of what we do. And we want to take full advantage.
Liberty Flames Athletic Director Ian McCaw, generous enough to give us a little bit of time today here in the Fast Lane. Ian, thank you so much for stopping by with us. We know you have a lot of much more important things you could be doing on a game day. So thank you for giving us a little bit of your time here as we have our Midweek on the Mountain broadcast at the Liberty Indoor Practice Facility.
Well, thanks for having me, Ed. You've got a couple really good guests on deck here. So
I do. John Manson and Bryson Gordon. John is slated to be next, then Bryson Gordon. Who knows how this is going to unfold? We will find out when we return here in the Fast Lane. VTR in Sports app. Ask that smart speaker. Open VTR in Sports.
It's so worth the drive to big savings at the used car superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Shop local and save more with exceptional service and selection. Your search stops here with over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, plus a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you more choices with pre-owned cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties. SUVs, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, savings, and financing options, and top dollar for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with 11 new car brands and over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. And we're proud to support our local schools and community. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier car dealer, locally and family-owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
You're seriously considering buying investment property, but you're unsure of all the steps. That's where we come in at Brownstone Properties. We're navigating different home investment journeys daily, just as we've done for decades. From buying with one of our licensed realtors to a full-service property management after the purchase, Brownstone Properties will walk with you step by step on your real estate investment journey. For a free initial consultation, call or visit us online today at brownstoneproperties.com.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
Feel the excitement, experience the intensity. Castle Coliseum comes alive when Hokie basketball takes the court.
He made it on 1 foot. Lead, it's down.
From buzzer beaters to hard-fought battles, Virginia Tech men's and women's basketball takes on the toughest teams in the ACC.
Step up and in. Here come the Hokies. Only ropes.
Don't just hear about it, be there. Tickets on sale now at Hokiesports.com.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrack Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
Trick or treat! Happy Halloween! And at InsaneRadioDeals.com and VTRN, we don't have any tricks up our sleeves, but we do have plenty of treats for you. 31% off of list price items for all food items, from 801 Raw Bar to Oliver's on Rivermont, Ballad Brewing to Downtown Cairo, Caribbean Jerk Pot, JD's Cafe, and the Yard on 5th Street. 31% off all food items at InsaneRadioDeals.com now through November 3rd.
Hi, this is Bill Robb, voice of Virginia Tech football. It's time to start jumping. This is your home for the Hokies, VTRN Sports 93.3 FM and the VTRN Sports app.
Step into the fast lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the fast lane.
We are here live right now with in the studio. Ed currently is off air right now as we're trying to get our airwaves fixed up. But while we do that, thank you guys for tuning in as Liberty gets set for game time on the Mountain midweek slate, ladies and gentlemen. Liberty Flames great win over UTEP earlier on last week over the midweek. Their first Conference USA win. They're 1-1 currently. New Mexico State currently 3-2 on the season. We're still waiting to hear back from Ed, but some things to look into for tonight's game. Okay, look, if you're the Liberty Flames, if you're Liberty, you want to look at, can we move the ball more efficiently? Ethan Vasco showed signs of that last week. It's just, can the offense get in the end zone? It was mostly field goals last week. But with that being said, I definitely think, in my opinion alone, I think if Liberty is efficient at moving the ball down the field today on offense, we see an improved run defense, this kind of run defense that shut down a very high prestigious player in Malachi Nelson and the UTEP Miners last year in the Conference USA, by the way. But I think if you look at Liberty and what they offer, what they bring to the table as far as the rest of the season, I think, in all honesty, maybe Jacksonville State's loss was a wake-up call. Old Dominion loss, wake-up call. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But while we wait for Ed to get on the air, I do wonder, with Penn State firing their head coach, and I bring up Penn State because, Virginia Tech has announced that they will no longer be commenting on their process of their coaching hire. So as that has gone on, they've signed NDAs. In fact, athletic director Whit Babcock was supposed to have an local news interview, and he called it off because it came out that, hey, listen, our guys have signed the NDAs. They signed them off. They are no longer speaking about this process. They can't. Legally, they cannot do it. So, but with that being said, I wonder, with the way Virginia Tech has taken this process and the way they've carried it, I personally wonder if Penn State will follow that example, if Arkansas will follow that example. That's what I'm starting wondering myself. Will Arkansas and Penn State follow the Virginia Tech's path? Are they going to get somebody as big as, a former NFL head coach, a guy who's knows what it takes to win, like Bruce Arians? And are they going to follow that same strategic path? And by the way, if I may, and I know Trey and Ty talked about this on the morning warm-up that you can hear 7 to 8 a.m. every weekday. Why not hire James Franklin? He's great at getting recruits out of Virginia. He's been perfect with that all his entire time at Penn State. He nearly got Gideon Davidson out of LCA. In fact, Gideon told me that story ages ago when he was at LCA himself. So, I feel like if you are Virginia Tech and you're looking at James Franklin, for example, you see the kind of pizzazz he brings from Virginia Tech, from people from Virginia Tech. As Ed is waiting to get on air, we got another way for them to get on air, hopefully here soon. I definitely would consider that, though. And if I'm Arkansas, if I'm Trent Dilfer just got fired from UAB, I believe. Maybe if I'm UAB, I would somewhat consider it. They don't have as big of an NIL program as others, but I feel like they should look into that at least. It'll be interesting to say the least. And UVA taking on Washington State definitely a scare, but I definitely would say this. UVA, and I saw a thing on ESPN today, and they said on the college football bubble, they said the only way UVA probably makes the playoffs, even if they win all their games, obviously, the rest of their games, but they have to win the ACC championship at this point, because if you don't, well, all of a sudden that loss from NC State, who's struggling right now, whopped by Notre Dame, and then lost to VT at Carter Finley, you got to think to yourself, okay, maybe that loss will probably hurt them. And I hate that a loss to NC State hurts UVA like that, Because I personally feel that if, let's say, let's look at Alabama. Florida State's on a struggle right now. They've lost 3 games in a row. Are you going to punish Alabama for losing to Florida State? Are you going to punish Alabama for losing to Florida State? And I get it. Alabama is playing a way tougher schedule than UVA. Louisville and Florida State, that's the highlight. Duke in November, that's something to keep an eye on. And I'm excited to go as a credentialed media member to that game. All right. Let's see if that's you. And Ed, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me, TJ?
Oh, I can hear you beautifully. I think the crowd wants to hear you and John over me.
Heck
so.
yeah. Okay. So all right, TJ. Well, first of all, a shout out to TJ Wilkerson for holding it down. You're getting the most unique version of the fast lane right now. This is like cut off heads for some people. So we are set up at the Liberty University Indoor Practice Facility. TJ has done a masterful job. By the way, to the guy who is wearing a New England Patriots Hunter Henry jersey, first of all, it should be a Demario Douglas jersey. It's John Manson from ACCRed.com is with us in the fast lane. Second of all, if you get a chance to come back over here, or if you know who this person is at the Liberty Flames, please get that person our info at fastlaneedlane@gmail.com or Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, because it seemed like that person wanted to say hi, and we were literally in the middle as John Manson is my witness.
He was so excited to see you, Ed.
And you blew him off. I know. I feel like the grade A D-bag that I have just bemoaned in media, and now I committed that. So, first of all, I pray for forgiveness for that. Second of all, I pray we get the technical situation resolved. And third of all, I pray I get to see this person again to apologize so that I don't seem like that big of an...
He was starstruck seeing Ed Lane live and in person.
You know, the funny thing is it might have all been you, John, because you're really the person that people know here around here for Liberty Flames Athletics. Midweek on the Mountain has always been a tough sell at Liberty. Vibes. What's your sense of the vibe? Not just the fact that it's midweek on the mountain, but we're talking about a New Mexico State and Liberty matchup that has lost a lot of its luster based on how the first half of the season has unfolded, both in Las Cruces and in and around Lynchburg.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time these two teams have met in Lynchburg since the 2023 Conference USA Championship game. And, you know, coming into campus, onto campus, and walking over here, the last time I was here for a game day, as you were, was a JMU game. It was a much different vibe that day than it is today. And some of that is due to it being a Tuesday night, and I'm sure some of it's also due to Liberty being 2-4 in the season. So, you know, and when you look back to that 2023 Conference Championship game, there's a lot of new faces on these teams, right? Both sides of the ball. You got a new head coach for New Mexico State, a lot of new staff. Tony Sanchez, the head coach for the Aggies, was on staff at that time, but it's a lot different now with a lot of new teams, a lot of new faces. So it's you know it's different. This is the first time Liberty's been 2-4. Obviously, we talked about that when they were 1-4. First time they've been that more of a record at the FBS level. So the vibes are different. I'm really curious. I was listening to you talking to Ian McCall earlier. Liberty AD, he expects a good crowd. I'm curious how many people will be in the stands for this one tonight.
Yeah, I am as well. I mean, I don't know if it'll be like the 8,000 that came for the second half of the ECU game a while ago, but it feels like it will be a much more deflated atmosphere, relatively speaking. And I don't think there's this vibe of imminent large changes. Fire Jamie Chadwell around the Liberty Flames, but getting with Ian McCall, I mean, he brought up a couple times the fact that they need this win tonight. They need to start winning some football games to kind of reverse the mood around the program.
Yeah, definitely. I heard you guys talking. You're definitely, you know, on point, talking about how, you know, Conference USA championship picture is still in play. Like, for both of these teams, you know, both of them, Liberty and New Mexico State, are 1-1. Whoever gets the win tonight, you know, obviously moves to 2-1, and you can stay in that picture. You know, for Liberty, not playing again for 17 days after this one into November. So if you can get to 2-1 in conference play, you need some help because there's 3 teams undefeated. You know, looking at Kennesaw, surprise win over Louisiana Tech, but they're undefeated in conference play, and so is Western Kentucky. And who's the third team undefeated? Jacksonville State. Yeah, who beat Liberty. So those 3 teams are kind of ahead of the Flames right now in the Conference USA pecking order. But the longer you stay around, and Coach Tattle talked about in his press conference last week, is like, even despite the 2 losses in conference play last year early, Liberty still, they had a win and in situation in the regular season finale at Sam Houston. So if you take care of business tonight, you're at least in the conversation into November.
JC Manson and a Sea of Red. Those are the Twitter handles for Liberty Flames reporter John Manson from AseaofRed.com. He's with us here. We're at midweek on the mountain at the Liberty Flames indoor practice facility, getting you set for midweek on the mountain against New Mexico State. Can I just throw this out there? Weird stuff always happens around New Mexico State. We had the infamous 2022 game where it all hit the fan at the end of the Hugh Freeze era. Then we had the weather that was happening around the area when they played in the regular season in 23. The second game was the Conference USA Championship. That was somewhat weather impacted, but Diego Pavia did everything he could to keep them in that game. Last year it was a weird one. Liberty pulled it out in Las Cruces. Are you expecting some more weird stuff outside of our technical snafus here, or is this going to be the weirdness extent tonight?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a lot of weird going on for Liberty all season, through the first 6 games. Just unknown of what's happening, what's going on. But, yeah, these two teams is kind of a little bit of a rivalry that's developed. Not anybody would have expected it. Liberty and New Mexico State, two teams, polar opposite ends of the country, and meeting here in Lynchburg. This is the 6th time that New Mexico State has been here in Lynchburg at Williams Stadium since 2018. So they've made a lot of trips out to the East Coast to take on the Flames. And like we talked about, in 2023 was the first year for both teams in this league, and they met in the conference championship game. And I think a lot of people expected both to compete for a conference championship. Again, last year it didn't happen for either one. But wouldn't be shocked if one of these teams gets hot, the last half of this season, and is one of the two teams in that conference championship race, conference championship game. So it's been a little bit of an interesting history between the two. It goes back to 2018 and 2019 when they were both FBS independents. Play that unorthodox in-season home and home when both were independents. Just trying to fill out the conference schedules. Back then, Liberty had 2 FCS games and then played New Mexico State twice in the same season. So now they're kind of de facto rivals in Conference USA. I don't think anybody would have drawn that up, but that's what they've been in the last few years.
It's a very unique matchup. You mentioned opposite ends of the spectrum. Both of these programs have had, like with most of them, their head coaching and their player personnel changes over the last handful of years, which brings us to the game tonight. Liberty's a 10.5 point favored, 46.5 is the point total. Am I all base and thinking that, generally speaking, people know Jamie Chebal for his offense, but the last year and a half, it's really more been the defensive style that has carried Liberty. They've gone under the point total in a lot of games, which also wins it. If you're going under the point total, 10.5, Liberty can win comfortably, but that just is a large margin when there's not a lot of points.
Yeah, it definitely is, and don't take any betting advice from these comments, but I certainly would lean towards the under. And, for Liberty to cover 10.5 points, when they haven't scored 20 as a team the last 4 games, that's a lot of points to cover. So you're obviously, Vegas is expecting a low-scoring game, and if you're Liberty and hoping to cover that, you got to rely on your defense. That's something Liberty's done. They did it last week, against UTEP. UTEP was shut out, kept off the scoreboard until the fourth quarter. They were held under 100 yards of total offense until the fourth quarter, and Liberty put up their best defensive performance, statistically speaking, from a total offensive yards since 2014. So it was certainly the best defensive performance under Coach Chadwell, and he's going on 3 years here. So it feels like when the offense is still, they're putting up yards. And they had over 400 yards of offense last week in the win over UTEP. They had over 400 yards of offense earlier in the season in a loss to Jacksonville State. But it's when you get to the red zone, you have to capitalize. Last week, we had to settle for 5 field goal attempts. Jay Billingsley made 4 of those 5. But you got to punch those in. You can't expect to win games 19-8 or not scoring 20 points. So you got to be able to punch those in when you get to the red zone. Liberty's one of the worst in red zone offense efficiency this season. And meanwhile, New Mexico State is the top in not just Conference USA, one of the top in the country coming in tonight, 8th in the country in red zone efficiency defense. So you always talk about red zone efficiency, but it seems like that one will be super important for this one tonight.
John Manson of ACCAofred.com is with us here. We are at the Liberty Indoor Practice Facility. John, we've got a lot of bigger picture takeaways that we can take from Liberty football, Liberty sports. That we've got all the calendar here to get into that. Last one for you. How does this game tonight unfold, and what's the vibe that we're feeling and discussing when we connect, hopefully for a more normal schedule next week?
Well, again, you're asking me to predict what's going to happen, and it's hard to do that with this Liberty team. I mean, they're having lost those 4 straight games. I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out how good is this team. You heard in your interview with Ian McCall earlier talk about how he believes this Liberty team is and has the potential to be the best in Conference USA. I agree with him, but they haven't put it all together for a full 4 quarters this season. You saw it, the 4th quarter against Maine, they played really well, but those first 3 quarters wasn't up to par. You haven't, obviously in the 4-game losing skid, you didn't see a full game performance. And even last week in the win, like our first quarter was a good performance on offense. Defense played good throughout, but can Liberty put it together for all 4 games? If they can't, all 4 quarters, if they can tonight, I would expect Liberty to win, and probably to win pretty comfortably. But we haven't seen that in the first 6 games. So that's a big question mark. Can you see that happen tonight? And if so, it definitely gives you good vibes going into the last month of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to make up for everything that happened with the 1-4 start, but it could get the fan base to the point where you feel like, all right, this thing's stabilized. In the second half of the year, it's not, oh my goodness, this ship is sinking. Fire everyone, we need drastic change.
No, you're definitely right. And you heard from Ian. It's he put it out there that you need some patience, right? Like Liberty's not going to sit here and do like a Penn State did and go from being number 3 in the country to 3 weeks later you're paying a $50 million buyout.
You don't have 50 mil line around?
No, and I'm not sure Liberty does to pay a buyout. But you're not going to see that here. You need a little bit more patience. I mean, you're only 2 years removed from arguably the best season in school history. So let's give Chadwell the benefit of the doubt and see what happens the last half of the season. And if you get into a conference championship game and maybe even win that, it definitely changes the vibes around this team and this program going into the offseason.
I mean, we haven't even had a chance to see about potential offseason staff changes, structural changes, which can include, the offseason schedule or staffing. There's so many ways this thing could be tweaked long term, and I think the big point for you is, I mean, this thing could still be a non-bowl season. Maybe Liberty gets to that, but I don't think Liberty's in a fire the coach because of one bad season. It's more you're going to make changes and see if you can get this thing righted.
Yeah, definitely. And again, let's see how these last 6 games go. If you end up a 3-9, that we might be having a different conversation than if you're 8-4 and in a conference championship game. So a lot of football left to be played, and Liberty certainly has the potential to be in the mix in the Conference USA Championship picture going into November with the win tonight against New Mexico State.
John Manson of ACCAofred.com. John, thank you for your time. There are bigger picture things to discuss later. In the meantime, thank you for your patience and pivoting with us during what's been a typical New Mexico State game at Liberty. All sorts of weirdness happened.
Well, you got it all figured out. I'll try to find the Hunter Henry fan, flag him down, and talk to him for a few minutes, and hopefully no hard feelings on his part.
Yes, you can pass along my information, and I would be delighted to speak with him and issue an apology and hopefully an explanation. Hopefully forgiveness is received. You're spared the cheesy soundbite. In the meantime, when we come back, John's competitor fighting to the death. These guys go at it all the time. Not really. Bryson Gordon, newsadvance.com, next in the Fast Lane.
Looks should not be deceiving, especially when you place your order. Now under new ownership and newly staffed, Oliver's on Rivermont has a guarantee for you. What you see on the menu is what you'll get in every order. It's the same great-looking menu at Oliver's on Rivermont, now with new additions like pork chops, ribs, and pasta sticks. And the new chef is the master of consistency, so what you order is what you'll get every single time at Oliver's on Rivermont.
VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. The games play here. College football action this Saturday. Coverage starts at noon as Oklahoma takes on South Carolina in the SEC. Then, an ACC Championship game rematch as SMU takes on Clemson in the nightcap, the third Saturday in October. Tennessee takes on Alabama. Catch all the big games on VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio, 93.3 FM, 1320 AM, streaming on the VTRN Sports app, and as your smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
We've been as critical as anybody on these TroSwallow.com fast takes about the ACC and what they have not done correctly. But give them their flowers and praise for what they have done correctly, which we're doing now on our TroSwallow.com fast take. That praise is warranted because of the transparency with television viewers being able to get an inside look into the officiating and replay review process. It was highlighted during Virginia's victory over Florida State, but something that should continue well into the future.
You need an at-work buddy. Don't stop believing. Somebody to play your favorite music while you grind away. Classic hits from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Check out Rewind 1039. We play tons of music and never stop the music for more than 90 seconds. Classic hits at work, on the radio at Rewind 1039, or on the Rewind 1039 app.
Step into the fast lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the fast lane.
So apparently they are pulling enough from a breaker box here at Liberty's indoor practice facility that it was stressing us, and that's why we went off the air, and then TJ filled in for segment 2, and we had a chat with John Manson, the arch rival of Bryson Gordon, our next guest from newsadvance.com, and throughout all that process, we just asked the staff here, get us to 6 o'clock. Like,
get us to 6.
Bryson, have you ever been in a spot where you're trying to catch a connecting flight and you're just like, just get me on the airplane, I'll figure the rest of it out later?
Let the stress fall down. Just get me there, and that'll be all I need. And just let us run out the clock to 6 o'clock. We can talk about Liberty, we can talk about high school, but just get us to 6. Let's run the clock out.
6 o'clock.
Couple halfback dives.
As my kids know from Number Blocks, a show that was once on Netflix, and then I guess rich people got upset at a kid's show, so it went off because we were arguing over how much money to charge. It went off, so we had to use the YouTube version, maybe doing something we're not supposed to, but hey, it's out there. 6 is in the mix. That is in the mix for us today. Bryson Gordon is as well. Liberty, they're 2-4. If they win tonight, it will not, I would believe, solve what was a disappointing start to the year, but does it change the vibe about the fact that they can, I wouldn't say get the season back on track, but restore some level of confidence that this coaching staff can bounce back through adversity of a 1-4 start?
Absolutely. I would argue that a win tonight would kind of get them back to where they want to be in terms of their ultimate goal of winning Conference USA. I think whenever, Coach Chadwell comes into the Liberty Football Center every Tuesday or whatever day we were in there, I think preseason everybody mentions the playoffs. It gets mentioned for a team like Liberty, the tier that they often compete in. This year probably was a further along dream than you would have thought if you were a Liberty fan. I think at least coming into the season. And so Conference USA, winning Conference USA was their number one goal. I think, winning there will put you into conversations you want to be in eventually, just winning Conference USA. And so I think in terms of tonight, it would be a huge win for them in Conference USA circumstances, not only because it gets you above 500, but also it gets you above another team like New Mexico State, who's going to be kind of competing for that second spot. It seems to be that the back of Conference USA has already formed itself, right? We know the bad teams. We know Sam Houston, we know Middle Tennessee, we know a lot of those teams. But for every team that can jump above, and as long as Liberty gets to 2-1, they're in that conversation up there. They're not right there with Western Kentucky. They're not right there with some of the other teams that are undefeated right now through a couple games, but they're in that conversation that matters. And I think generally that's where this team should strive. You can talk about playoff all you want, but this team needs to be striving to be in the conference championship game because they weren't there last year, right?
Yeah, and I think we're seeing, and maybe I'm wrong in this, there's certain things about new college football. I think we're going to have the ebbs and flows like Florida State, for example. One year you're 10 or 11 wins. The next year you're 2-10. Then the year after that you could kind of go either way, and it looks like it was going to go up, then it's going to go down for Florida State. This is just the norm of college athletics where you're less likely, it seems, to string together good year after good year after good year, because when you have a good year, there's going to be more staff and roster turnover combined.
Absolutely. And it's tough to string those years together because exactly like you mentioned, like in Liberty's case, let's look at where Liberty competes in the group of 5. If Liberty were to have a spectacular season this year coming into the year, right, there are some older players on this team, but there's also a handful of players who are, sophomores, juniors that contribute that if Liberty were to have a great year, they would go on elsewhere. So it's hard. I think the sign of a great coach in college football these days, it's kind of funny talking about James Franklin getting fired this week. Like, he kind of runs into it. Obviously, I don't think James Franklin is a quote-unquote great coach, but I think what makes a really good coach in college football these days is somebody who can sustain the ebbs and flows. And for all the heck you want to give James Franklin, at least until this season, right? He had sustained all the ebbs and flows. They were perennially a 10 or 11 win team. They were perennially in the conversation. Maybe they weren't all the way in the national championship conversation where they should be, but they were there. And I think in Liberty's case, Chadwell with this season would be important to be able to get a bowl game out of this, to be able to get 7-8 wins out of this after the start, right? The start is what it is. Talk about it for as much as we want, but being able to squeeze 7-8 wins out of this season would be incredible. And obviously 8 wins, they'd have to win out, maybe get a bowl game and win a bowl game. But I think being able to squeeze out that kind of win total from this season would be the sign of Chadwell maybe making some strides after a slow start.
Bryson Gordon, newsevents.com, covers the Liberty Flames, covers high school sports, and he's with us in the fast lane. BG, I know this, I don't mean this disparagingly, but I mean, Liberty starts 1-4. They have a lot of issues on both sides of the ball, and it looks like they could resolve them. How much of the added value of momentum, if they can sustain it, the Liberty Flames through the rest of this year is there's probably not a lot on this roster that's going to be heavily desired to transfer up, meaning you're building momentum and selling your players. Hey, if we finish strong this year, it could carry into next year. And the players in the back of their minds, it would be probably in their best interest to know, hey, if we can finish this year strong, sustain it to next year, that's when we could really cash in at the next level.
Absolutely. And look at quarterback, right? Everybody talks about Ethan Vasco, and I think if Vasco were to have an incredible season, he certainly hasn't had one so far. So if he were to finish better than he started, I still don't think he's a guy that would be able to transfer up. We've seen him compete at multiple schools in the G5 level. I think most teams kind of view him as what he is. So you look at Vasco, you look at a guy like Evan Dickens, who still has eligibility along the offensive line, DJ Geth, Aaron Fenimore. Defensively, they're a touch older, I would say, kind of just scanning across the top. But like, as you mentioned, there are pieces that they would be building with down the stretch here the rest of the season, right? Guys that are getting chances in Brylan Green's absence and in situations like that. There are guys that are going to get valuable opportunities. And as you mentioned, I don't think, barring a spectacular turnaround for a handful of guys, I don't think that there's going to be a mass exodus from this roster for the transfer portal going up, because I just don't think that the talent is there. Now, that doesn't mean that the wins can't be there for what they're trying to get this season. And I think you're starting to see that, right? The more that other guys are getting the opportunities, you're starting to see them thrive. Vaughn Blue comes to the top of mind. 17 carries last week, led the team in rushing. That was the first time he's been able to do that. At receiver, I mean, it was 11 guys that caught a pass last week. So many of those guys are able to be here next year and be able to be here for a couple of years past that. And so you're starting to see, I think people came into the year with the expectations of this being a year for Liberty to be at the top of Conference USA, to maybe be in the playoff talk. They didn't have that talent. Like, we know right now they didn't have that top end talent, and you can see that from watching the games. But I think what you are starting to see, and what you want to continue to see down these last 6 games is those younger guys continue to build that quote unquote momentum. But to Liberty's, discredit this year, they have not been able to sustain any bit of momentum. And so they need to be able to show that tonight. That's the first thing we need to see.
Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com with us in the fast lane. BG, when you're talking with Trey Lyle on the morning warm-up Wednesday morning, and he's you get to give him a hard time because his Yankees floundered out of the playoffs. Thank God.
Thank
your
God,
eyes.
thank God.
Not that I'm one to talk. My Phillies literally threw away their chance. Literally threw it away. What's going to be the vibe? Is it going to be Liberty's 2-5 and you're seeing they're having more questions, or is it Liberty got to win? May have been ugly, but they got to win against New Mexico State, and now you're seeing a path to finishing this season strong.
Yeah. I was actually talking with the legendary Trey Lyle on my way here. I was texting with him on my walk to the stadium. I think Liberty wins.
Not texting and driving.
Not texting. My texting on my walk to the stadium, because it's a long 5-minute walk. From
It
the
is
parking deck.
parking
It
deck.
is
Yes.
very long. But I was texting with Trey Lyle. I think Liberty wins tonight. The 9.5 is a lot. I don't know if they cover. I don't know.
And for a low point total.
And on top of it, we've seen this Liberty team for 6 games now. Who in they're at Williams Stadium. They're at home. It's a pro-Liberty environment tonight. But who in college football can you say Liberty is 10 points better than? That they've just played the season in the FBS.
Whoa.
It's not many teams, right? And so that's the expectation with New Mexico State. I think New Mexico State has one of the better passing offenses that Liberty's going to see this year. If Liberty can't get pressure, then I think they're going to have a tough night. But I still think Liberty wins in a relatively close game. And I think at this point in the season, it's all about vibes, right? You can talk about how they win, how, did it look pretty, did it look bad? they need wins. They need wins to get the bowl games. They need wins to stay in the Conference USA race. And so any kind of win, unfortunately I think from a media perspective, we can still pick things out. But from a team perspective, everything's going to get thrown out. A win's going to go in the win column, and they're trying to get to 6 and trying to get to, even 5 or 6 in Conference USA race too.
Well, I mean, if you've got a lot of guys that either want to transfer out and are ready to go, cough last year's team, or guys that are destined to transfer out, the Fiesta Bowl team, because they were really talented, then getting to a bowl game is maybe viewed differently. If you got a lot of guys that might stick around, that bowl game seems like it's so crucial because it's the next step. That's an extra month or so of game prep and practice that's more tape that you can use to build toward the next year.
And how many teams do we see, maybe not necessarily in the group of 5, but you see it in major conference football, teams that are able to have that little bit of a young piece and they go into a bowl game and they have 7-8 wins, and you see them start to pop in that bowl game. And then that's the team everybody talks about, next June, next July, as the preseason rankings are coming out. I think Illinois, off the top of my head, was one of those teams. It was a crazy bowl game they played in, but they rode their momentum to a good preseason ranking. Just because they kind of brought a lot back. And obviously Liberty's case would be different. They're not going to be up, in the top 15, top 20, top 25 maybe next year. But I think having any kind of momentum after this season with the likelihood of a lot of guys coming back would be huge for them.
Bryson Gordon with us here in the Fast Lane. BG, thank you for your time. We look forward to that recap tomorrow on the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle. Let there be light as we sign off in the Fast Lane today. We finally got it at the Liberty Indoor Practice Facility. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Always love being in the Fast Lane.
Indeed. BG with us in the Fast Lane to wrap things up. TJ is going to be joining BG and John in the press box tonight. I'll be watching on TV because wife's out of town at a conference, so I'm going to be teamsing in with conferences, and then TJ may be asking questions on my behalf. So catch us tomorrow, 5 to 6 p.m. in the Fast Lane. VTR and Sports app, WVGM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna Danville Southside, and W227 BG Timberlake.
WVGM Lynchburg.
This is Sports Center.
I'm Christine